Okay, I believe we're running up 77 up out of Columbia, South Carolina, and I believe we're talking about entering Canada. If you've never been to Canada or are not familiar with the laws, what you don't know can hurt you. Understand that felons or convicted criminals you can get into Canada a lot of times, but you can't get back through the U.S. Customs. You'll spend time in jail with a cellmate that speaks French. But also crossing into Canada, they also have agricultural laws as to what you can and cannot take into Canada. You cannot take any plants that have roots on them because they carry disease that will infect all of Canada. You can do serious jail time for the following things, such as a potato is a root vegetable, a carrot is a root vegetable, onions, so you name it, anything that comes out of the ground that possibly would be considered a root. No tropical fruit, so say a kiwi or a banana. A banana, we got offered to be fined $1,000 per banana one time, and $1,000 per potato or jail time, and that's each. So if you're planning on going to Canada, any flowers, you can take flowers that are cut and get them through. You can't take any furs or hides, and that fur collar on your coat, that might be illegal if the officer decides to be a pain. You can't take any animal products depending on how they're processed. This is also possible for heavy fines and jail times. You can take booze across, but only certain amounts, and per day or whichever, and you can bring booze back in certain amounts. But you got to know these laws. You have even an ounce over what you're legally supposed to have, they can throw you in jail, and they don't have to have a reason to search you. They can tear your crap apart, every square inch of it, bring the dogs in and sniff it. You cannot bring any beef or animal products, beef or lamb or whatever, ostrich. Because of the mad cow disease, that's also a heavy imprisonment and fine. So you best know you can't bring any weapons, you can't bring any ammunition without a permit or without declaring it. Now, if you declare it and you're going hunting, they're going to register that you brought that 300 Weatherby or the 30-30 Winchester in there, and you'll have to prove that you brought it back out. Handguns pretty much are pretty tough to get across there without a permit. So know what you're bringing across when you go to cross into Canada. And it's going to cost you, I don't have the accurate percentages, but it's going to cost you another probably 30 to 50% more per day in Canada than it does down here in the States, both food and fuel. So if you're not willing to sacrifice that out of your pay, I'd suggest staying your little butt home. These immigration people have a job to do. They are not your friend. They never will be. If they needed a sense of humor, the government would have supplied one to them when they got the job, and they were not supplied one. So do not ever joke around with them. It's yes sir, no sir, yes ma'am, no ma'am. They are trained professionals spotting liars and nervous people. If you're nervous for any reason, they're going to take you aside and hold you and tear your shit apart. There's nothing more fun than sitting in a holding room by yourself, completely naked except for your underwear, for 6.5 hours for no reason. I'm talking from experience here. I am not talking about something written in any book. If you are commercially driving in Canada, the laws are different in Canada as to how many hours that you can drive and how many hours you can be on duty, depending on what type of driving you're doing. If you have passengers on board that are paying you to drive, it's a different set of laws than if you're just hauling freight or you're moving vehicles. Now, the border crossing way stations over there, they're always right at the border. They're not always open, but when they are, they love out-of-state, out-of-country plates. I went through with 4 other trucks, and that particular day, they were looking at safety chains. Now, the guy in front of me had the same set of safety chains that I did, but the scale man went out there, the inspector, he looked at his chain, the guy in front of me's chains, and said, "Oh, this chain has been dragged on the highway. You know, you had it too loose." We look at it, and it did have a little tiny flat spot on it, but not much. And he says, no, but that doesn't affect the strength. And he said, I'll be the judge of that. He pulls a venereal calipers or micrometers out of his pocket and measures the thickness of the other links of the chain. And he measures this chain at the drag mark. And of course, you know, it's going to be slightly different. He said, nope, that chain's been dragged. It's not legal. So we're going to take that chain off. So he thought, well, that's kind of cool. Well, he took it off. Then the guy wrote him a $50 ticket for not having safety chains on his vehicle. You must have a brake light in Canada. You must have a tag light in Canada or a license plate light. Or it's another $50. But you damn well better know these things, because the $50 comes straight out of your pocket, not out of the company's pocket. If they're writing a ticket for the truck or the RV in its safety factor, the company pays that, you hope. If they're writing it for a violation, for speeding or lane changing or drifting or whatever, that comes out of your pocket, and they never ever forget you. Now, when you're running across, even into Canada, but any state, and you're overweight or you have a violation, it's no big concern. You're probably just going to get a fine. The concern is that the DOT puts that violation in their computer, and the next time you go over the scale, I took an overweight crane through Montana into Utah one time, early in the game, and got fined for 14-ton overweight on the front axle. It's not that the company paid the fine, you know, it was only like $2,800. But to get me out of there, they had to pay on a credit card right there to get me down the road, because all they want is your money anyway. But they remember that, and it still comes up to this day, 12 years later, that I was pulled over overweight in Montana. So they're like an insurance company. They'll take your money, but they're never going to forget that violation, and they'll always throw it back up in your face when it comes time to check your paperwork. And if you've got violations for overweight or width or whatever, safety violations, they're going to over-inspect your vehicle. They'll pull you over pretty much every time that they see it's you. Now, I know you already know this, but I'm going to say it anyway. You already realize that Canadian money is never at the same exchange rate as U.S. money. And it's going to fluctuate, and you are going to win or lose up to 15% for every dollar. It's just a stroke of luck whether you gain money or lose it, but they'll always play that advantage against you going across the border. Say that the dollar is worth 10 cents more a dollar, American dollar, than Canadian. When you get to Canada, they'll just take it at par. If you're coming across with Canadian money in the U.S. and it's 10 cents different, sometimes they'll charge you 15 cents for processing. They get you coming both ways to and from across the border. And that's the little game they play for a little bit of extra money. But it hurts your pocket, because that's what it comes out of. Now, understand if you go in and out of Canada several times in a certain amount of time, a few months, it's going to red flag you, and you're going to find yourself in a holding area as they completely disassemble your car and your truck and bring the drug and weapon sniffing dog in to sniff everything. So they think that you have another reason besides transporting, possibly smuggling or whatever, and they're going to tear you apart, and kind of just to show you who is boss too. But understand, once you enter that border crossing, you are not ever going to leave that crossing. Say you're going from the U.S. to Canada or vice versa. You're never going to complete that crossing until the paperwork is 100% correct. And if it is not correct, the only two options is deserting the vehicle there, leaving it. Well, there's several options. You'll be arrested and they'll compound it, but either going back to the States or Canada, wherever you're coming from, and dealing with it, getting the paperwork straight, or deserting the vehicle and let them impound it until you can come back with the proper paperwork. But you better hope and pray that you got the right paperwork and that you don't have anything wrong with whatever they're inspecting for that day. Because it kind of depends on what everybody's smuggling at the time across the border, whether it's gems, smokes, liquor, people. You just never know. So it's a crapshoot. I try to stay out of Canada except for visiting family anyway. It just doesn't seem economical.